All right, so this is the 5th glove in the year of gloves. If you're making the 7.5, 8, or 8.5 inch glove, this is the video for you. All right, so foundation, single crochet row. I'm going to chain 1, insert my hook in that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, chain 1, yarn over, and pull through 2. And again, you can choose whether to count that starting chain as a stitch or not, just depending on what you like the look of. With a single crochet foundation row, I often won't count the starting chain just because it's so small. So I'll insert my hook into that extra stitch that I made at the base of the work, pull up a loop, chain 1, then yarn over and pull through both loops. Now I'll just keep going, insert my hook in that extra chain at the bottom of the stitch, loop, pull up a loop, chain 1, and pull through 2. And I'm just going to repeat this until I have 33 foundation stitches. My yarn's splitting a little bit. I can't tell you how many iterations I made of these gloves to try and get the fit just right. So this yarn has been worked and then undone a few times, and it's not very happy with me. All right, so that's a foundation row of 33. If you're doing the 8-inch glove, you're going to turn and do 1 more row of single crochet before going on with the pattern. So the difference between these shells and the ones for the 7 or 9-inch glove is just that there's 2 different versions of a shell row, and this one starts on the opposite version. So we're going to start with a half shell instead of a full shell. So we'll chain 3, and that does count as a double crochet, and turn our work. We're going to do 4 more double crochet in the same stitch. Now we're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the next stitch. Now we're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and we'll do 9 double crochet in that next stitch. We'll have a full shell of 9 double crochet. Now we'll skip 3 stitches, single crochet, skip 3 stitches, do a shell. So 9 double crochet. Okay, skip 3 stitches, single crochet, skip 3 stitches, shell. Skip 3 stitches, single crochet, skip 3 stitches, and 5 double crochet in the last stitch. Now chain 3 and turn. Do a V-stitch, and so we're going to skip the rest of this shell and do a V-stitch in that single crochet. So V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now we'll chain 5. We'll skip this whole shell and V-stitch in the next single crochet. Chain 5. V-stitch in the next single crochet. Chain 5. V-stitch in the next single crochet. Now chain 3, and you'll just slip stitch to your turn chain, your last stitch of the row. Now chain 1 and turn. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, so we're going to single crochet in that same stitch we just did a slip stitch into. Oops, maybe. Now we're going to do a shell in the chain space of the V-stitch. So 9 double crochet in the center of the V-stitch. Now you can see how our chain 5 is just wobbly over the top here, and we want to pin that down. So we're going to do a single crochet in the 5th stitch of the shell, and we're going to pin this chain 5 down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll insert our hook in the 5th stitch of the shell. Make sure we're catching that chain also, and do a single crochet. So now that chain is pinned down by that single crochet. Now we'll do another shell in the V-stitch. Again, we're going to single crochet in the 5th stitch of this shell and pin down that chain. So the 5th stitch of the shell is the very center of the shell. Now we're going to do the same thing. I'll do a shell, single crochet, shell, and then I'll go to that point. And then we'll do a single crochet in our turn chain here. So you can see the 2 different types of shell rows. This first one had 3 full shells and 2 half shells, and this one has 4 full shells. So each pattern repeat is actually 4 rows long, 2 V rows and 2 shell rows. So let's keep going and do the next V row. So we'll chain 3 and turn. Then we'll do another double crochet in the same stitch. Now we'll chain 5. Skip the shell, V in the single crochet, chain 5, skip the shell, V in the single crochet, chain 5, skip the shell, V in the single crochet, chain 5, skip the shell, 2 double crochet in the last stitch, chain 3 and turn, 4 double crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the 5th stitch of the shell, pin down that chain, shell in the V stitch, so we're going to keep going. We'll do shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, and then in the end, the very last stitch, we'll just do 5 double crochet instead of a full shell. And that'll be the pattern repeat. So ignoring that starting shell row because it's a little bit different just because it's working in the starting chain, you've got V row, shells, V row, shells. So you've got a 4 pattern repeat. For all 7.5, 8, and 8.5, you're going to repeat that full repeat one more time. So you should end on one of these rows that starts with a half shell. And all of the thumbs for all of the sizes is the same. So we'll cut to that point. All right, so I just finished those last couple repeats and now it's time to start the thumb. And like I said, the thumb is going to be worked similarly no matter what size glove you're doing. You should end on one of these rows with the half shells and 3 full shells. Now the thumb is actually worked over 4 rows, so you work it over the full pattern repeat. And the only difference between the right thumb and the left thumb is which of these shells you're skipping. So you have 4 shells, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the right thumb, we skipped this one. In the left thumb, we're going to skip this one. And that's just so that this edging ends up on the pinky side of the glove, right side up for both of them. If I put this one on my left hand, you can see that edging would be upside down over there. So I already have a right glove, so I'm going to do the thumb for the left glove, but it's very similar. It's just skipping a different shell. And you can get the actual counts for that on the pattern. All right, so we'll start with a chain 3 and turn. We'll do a V stitch in that single crochet. Chain 5. V stitch in the single crochet. Now we'll chain 3. We're going to slip stitch to the 5th stitch of this shell. Now we're going to chain 9. And we're going to slip stitch to the 5th stitch of the next shell. So basically we just skipped our V stitch here. We're not going to end up putting a shell here because this is going to be where our thumb is. Now we'll chain 3, V stitch in the single crochet, chain 3, and slip stitch in the last stitch. Now chain 1 and turn. So now this is a shells row. I'll single crochet in that first stitch. Oops. We're going to do a shell in the chain space of the V, just like normal. So we did all 9 of those double crochet. Single crochet in the 5th stitch of the shell below. So this is the same one we just slip stitched into. We're going to single crochet in that same space. Now we're going to chain 9 again, right where we did our last chain 9. Now we'll single crochet in this same space on the other side. And now we'll continue normally. We'll do our shells, single crochet, shell, single crochet. Okay, so now it's time for another V row. We'll chain 3 and turn. Double crochet in the same stitch. Chain 5. Skip our shell and V-stitch in the single crochet. Chain 5. Skip the shell, V-stitch in the single crochet. Now we're going to chain 5. We're going to skip this whole thumb gap, which is where the shell would have been, and V-stitch in the single crochet. So this row actually is normal. It just feels weird because we have that big thumb gap in there. But we're doing this just the same way we normally would. Then chain 5, skip the shell, and 2 double crochet in the last stitch. All right, now we'll chain 3 and turn. And now here's where we're going to reestablish our main pattern and finish off that thumb. So we'll start with 4 double crochet in the same stitch to make our little half shell. Every time I say half shell, I keep wanting to say turtles in the half shell, turtle power, and then I feel super nerdy. And I haven't watched Ninja Turtles since I was a really little kid, and my cousin used to play with me, and he would always make me be April, and I always wanted to be Donatello, and that was super lame. Anyway, he's a cool cousin though, so I forgive him. Okay, so 4 double crochet in the same stitch, single crochet in the 5th stitch of the shell. Oop, without catching all my yarn. Now we're going to do a shell in the chain space of the V here. Now here, we need to take care of all these chains, right? We don't want our thumb to look like that. So all you're going to do is do a single crochet over all 3 of these chains. So I'm going to insert my hook below all of them, wrap them all together in 1 single crochet. So they make a nice, neat little bundle. And then we'll keep going. We'll do a shell in this V-stitch. And we'll finish this row normally. So we'll do shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, and then our half of a shell. All right, so that's the thumb. So you can see if I'm going to put this, since I did a left thumb, if I put this on my left hand, the starting part should end up by my pinky, and we're going to keep working this until it comes around here, and then we'll sew it together at the end. But this then will mirror this one. So my right glove and my left glove, twinsies. So depending on what size you're doing, you'll do a different number of rows to finish this off. But for the 7-inch glove, I'm going to do 8 more rows. So 2 more full pattern repeats, and then I'll sew the glove together. So I'm going to do that off camera. And then I will come back and show you how to sew it together. All right, so I've done with my repeats. I'm ready to sew, so I'm going to leave a long tail to sew. And then I'll get my yarn needle. And we can just pull this out. Put this on our yarn needle. Now when you sew this, you want this last row of shells, and remember, depending on what size you did, you might have ended with the row with 4 full shells instead of 3 full and 2 half, and it doesn't matter, either way is fine as long as you ended on a shell row. So this last row of shells is gonna hang over the edge. So here you can see on my other glove that it's kind of floppy here. So we're gonna sew the base of this shell row onto our foundation row. So we'll fold this over. And you can kind of do this whatever way you like. Again, sewing is not one of my great strengths. But as long as it doesn't come apart, it doesn't really matter. First, I'm going to get this thread just down to the base of this row. So I'm just going to go kind of back down through that stitch, down to the base. So here, I want the base of this row to attach to this foundation row over here. So I'm going to go down here. Now I'm going to find the start of my foundation row. Let's sew that together. And then I'll come back up. So you can see the way these shells are going to line up. The base of this shell is going to be in between these 2 shells. If I had finished on a row with 4 full shells, they would line up directly overlapping. So just be aware of how it is on your specific glove, because it will be slightly different than mine potentially. So I just make sure those shells are lined up every stitch that I do. So if I go down in the middle here, I should end up in the middle of this shell, the base of the middle of that shell. And I'm just going to do this all the way across until I reach the other side. I don't have any specific place that I'm going in here. I do like to, when I do the middle of the shell, I'll kind of go under so that it's not so obvious, and then out the back, just to hide that sewing a little bit on the front side. On the back side, it really doesn't matter because nobody's going to see it. It's going to be inside your glove. Okay, so I think you get the idea by now that we are just sewing this together, and this is overlapping a little bit so that it hangs over the edge and it makes this beautiful little shell pattern. Now, if you finish your glove and you find that it is just a little bit too tight before you sew it together, you can actually go back, this is just a start of another one, you can go back to this foundation row and work another row of single crochet along here. That's still kind of hidden by this, so it's not really going to show, but if you work another row or even 2 rows of single crochet, you can make it a little bit bigger without having to jump up to the next size and redo the whole thing. So that's just a little tip if you find it's just a little bit too tight when you're done.